All right, welcome everybody. We got episode 2 of the NSDFL show. We've got a great guest tonight, Andy Hirko of the Hercules team. He's here.
Good evening, Chris. Long-time listener, first-time caller here.
And Andy, we appreciate you calling in. We're going to have a lot of fun tonight. We got a few things on the agenda. I know you wanted to hop on because Matt just totally bashed your team last time. It was really unnecessary. I mean, it's your first year, and Matt just comes out and just destroys you. I mean, it's uncalled for.
Yeah, I don't know what I said or did, but maybe this has something to do with my brother John, some sort of weird way of getting back at him by bashing me. I don't know, but I'm here for a little retaliation.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time and coming on with us for a little while. So we got a few things on the agenda tonight. We're going to do a little informal interview with Andy down the road a little bit. And then we're going to go through the North Division, which is your division, Andy. And we're going to go through all 4 teams and just kind of we're just going to kind of go over everyone's thoughts and how things look for the future next year. Maybe do a little recap this year and whatnot. Before we get started, though, last time we talked about Christmas cards, which I know was a controversial, hot topic. There was really a lot of fire in the comments afterwards. I know Matt had something. I mean, you had some other Christmas stuff going on?
Yeah, I know you and I, Chris. I feel like we're the two Scrooges of the world, but there's just so many things wrong with Christmas ideas and Christmas gift giving, and there's one particular instance my wife does with her work friends, and I know it has a name, but what the object of what they do here is they bring crappy gifts and they exchange them. And it's like a group of 15 people or so. It's like a Secret Santa, but with crappy gifts. And I can only picture them giving these crappy gifts to each other, and each time they almost force a laugh. Because these gifts are not funny. I've seen the ones that she's given, and I've seen the ones that she's received. They're not funny by any stretch of the imagination. They are not creative. They're simply just junk you're trying to get rid of out of your house. In fact, that's what my wife says every time she goes. And I'm wondering, Chris, and now that we've got Andy on the show, could you possibly tell me the point of this crappy Yankee gift swap or whatever it's called? Chris, you go first. What's the deal here?
I mean, frankly, I think we can lump this into I'm going to put this in the category of just I don't understand women. I think that's what I'm going with.
Okay.
I don't get it. I don't understand it. They got this weird stuff. It's like they make each other feel bad, and They do dumb things. I don't understand it. I mean, we bust on each other, but we know that's out of love.
Correct.
They mean it. Like, they're mean, and they do weird shit like this. I don't understand it, and this is just another thing for me to throw in that pile.
Andy, how about you? Has Brittany ever indulged in something like this?
No, I'm going to take this one step farther. I had a work party this year at a coworker's house where we did this Yankee swap thing, or this dirty Santa, whatever. And this is coworkers I've got to buy for now. So it was terrible. Somebody threw out the idea of a gag gift, and I jumped right on it. I got a couple as seen on TV gag gifts. Because I don't know, you don't know what to buy these people. You're forced into a terrible situation, very Seinfeld-esque, I try to avoid those situations at all costs. But I'm with you guys.
Absolutely. It sounds like you find it pointless, and it's just painstakingly horrible. And I don't know why it works. My wife's it's a company party she does with the people that she works with, and it just must be awkward. And I'm glad that I'm sorry that you've dealt with this, Andy, but I'm glad that you can sympathize, with my thoughts on the situation. So
this goes back to my New Year's resolution this year, which I shared with you the other day. But my New Year's resolution this year is to participate in exactly 0 things at work this year. 0. So we're off to a great start. This week was pay $5 and you can wear jeans, as opposed to business casual. No, I'm $5 richer than these other idiots.
And all you had to do is wear slacks like you do every single day.
Exactly.
No brainer.
I got
All
no
right,
comments on that. That's just a horrible idea.
It's
God,
bad.
fuck.
It's terrible. All right, so let's enough of us ranting and raving about this nonsense. Let's get into it. So Andy, just to get us going here, how did you feel about the league this was your first year? I'm not sure if everybody realizes that, but because I'm sure half the league is like asleep for most of the year. But this was Andy's first year, everyone. Andy, what were just kind of your thoughts overall on the league itself, and then just kind of you kind of had a rough year, but you have some growing pains. That's fine, but just some overall thoughts on what you thought about the league and how your team did.
Okay, I appreciate the question. It's a good question. First part, my thoughts on the league started out very well. The whole off season was pretty active, going from the draft and escalating from there. I executed a couple trades. Guys were responding pretty quickly. And then we kind of got into the season, and I felt like, kind of like what you said, things slowed down. Maybe like some people kind of fell asleep at the wheel when the season kind of started. I don't know. But overall, the GroupMe app, I think, is a great idea. You're not chasing text messages. It's just in the app. So I think that's great. And people seem pretty active there. So overall, good first season for me as far as the group of guys. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head with my season. Pretty disappointing. I took over basically the Cleveland Browns. I felt like I really had no chips to start out with. I immediately moved Jordy Nelson. I think I got a first-round pick out of that deal. But that was like an easy no-brainer, Jordy Nelson. I came into the team that I had also didn't have any picks at all, from what I remember. So I had a bad team. I had no draft picks. And there was only so much I could do. I feel like I made a bunch of moves, I feel like. And then you guys kind of hit on me for not trading C.J. Anderson or Lamar Miller. And I was like, what do you want me to do? And I was like, there was nothing I could do. I made so many trades. I felt like that you're hitting me on something I was trying to do.
Yeah.
And really, I started the season off with a pretty decent roster. I had, Mariota at quarterback, was supposed to be a promising quarterback. After the first 2 weeks, J.J. Nelson had averaged 20 points the first 2 games. Unbelievable. Completely drops off. So it was just it started off shaky. I think I got a win my first week, and just really nothing going on after that.
Yeah, I mean, it's no. I just pulled it up now. You actually started off 2-0, including a monster 136-point week 2, and then it was just downhill from there. You lost 5 of 6, and then you just couldn't get anything going after that. But yeah, based back to what you said though to start. You were dealt a bad hand. I mean, let's be honest with what this team was that you took over. It was a project. The guy before you, the move he made right before you took over, basically right before you left, he traded Antonio Brown, who's pretty good. I'm not sure if everybody heard of him.
Serious.
Wow. Yeah, it was a really bad deal. I was the recipient there. I got Antonio Brown for – you're going to cringe when you hear this one, Andy, because I never told you, but it was Jordy Nelson, Terrence West, J.J. Nelson, and I think a future pick, something like that. I mean, it was an absolute robbery. And to piggyback off what you were saying, how you had a hot start in terms of trades and stuff, your predecessor made absolutely 0 moves up until the Antonio Brown one. So I think, the other league members were thinking, hey, we got some fresh meat in here. Let's see what he's got. And I think that's the reason that we got off to the hot start in terms of trades. And that's why it kind of cooled down after they saw that you were active. You made your moves, and then it just kind of, like you said, died down a little bit.
Yeah, and to go back to the C.J. Anderson, Lamar Miller, they both started out pretty well, and I don't remember the specifics of it, but I'm pretty sure I tried to trade them, and just nobody in the league is interested in these 2 guys for whatever reason. I mean, there's nothing I could do with those 2 guys. I had to keep them.
Yeah, I mean, there comes a point where if the return is not even decent, then you just hold on to him. I mean, I know we ragged on you for that and thought you should get rid of him, but by no means do we think you should take like a second round or a late second or something like that for those guys. I mean, they still do have some value, especially I'm actually surprised since there were a few teams that were running back, thirsty this year, that somebody didn't kind of just say, hey, let me make a push and just pay, a late first or even like a 2019 first, which gets discounted a little bit, or some sort of deal. Let me give up maybe a young wide receiver prospect, something like that. But, sometimes people get a little tight during the season with their trades. They don't want to do too much to tweak things, but it's just kind of the way it is. I know we all kind of get stuck on there, but speaking of trades, I think the biggest trade you made this year was actually the one with Matt. It was Devontae Adams and Derrick Henry, giving up both. I don't remember. You guys can kind of hash that. I can't remember what you gave up or what you got back specifically, but just kind of take us into what your mindset was when you made that trade with Matt.
Yeah, that was a monster trade, wasn't it? I'm trying to think of what I got in return. So you're right. I dumped Devontae Adams and Derrick Henry. I got my first-round pick of 2018 back, which that was priority number one. I was going into the 2018 draft with no first-round pick, so
right.
I knew flipping Henry I was going to get a first-rounder, and that was it right there. And I really wanted to move Adams. I actually traded him right after Aaron Rodgers went on IR the first time. So I was thinking, all right, Adams is probably going to fall off. I kind of need to dump him because I didn't think he was going to have the points. He ended up doing really well the rest of the year, which is bad judgment on my part. But he was a little bit of collateral, I guess, because I was trying to dump Henry, who really had a bad season, in my opinion. He had 2 games where he rushed over 100 yards, and in those 2 games, he had like 2 70-yard runs in garbage time when they're like the last minute or something where nobody's even playing defense. So the rest of his games were horrible. So I was so glad to dump him. And I get the first round pick in 2018. I think I got a 3rd round pick, and I get Jimmy Garoppolo. Man, what a huge trade, because it was like I forget what day I traded for him, but like 3 days later, the Patriots sent him to the Niners, and then he's starting in 3 or 4 weeks later in that. And it was just, I couldn't believe it. I think just the Jimmy Garoppolo alone, I feel like I won the trade. I don't know how you feel, Matt.
Yeah, Andy, I honestly, I think it was later that day that Jimmy G got traded, because I remember you messaging me saying you swore you knew nothing about the trade. You had no idea that was going to be happening because it seemed like kind of just a throw-in, and then all of a sudden he gets traded to the Niners and things were looking up. Yeah, honestly, I really do believe that Jimmy G trade really put you over the top in terms of you winning that deal. I think you probably wished your pick turned out a little bit better. You ended up winning did you win a game down the stretch there that maybe put you at the 6th pick rather than the 4th or 5th? I'm not really sure, but yeah,
I think you're right.
But yeah, I mean, if that was your priority and you had Jimmy G, then yeah, honestly, I think you win. Maybe it might be too early to tell if Henry takes over the reins and actually turns into what he's shown glimpses of, then maybe it tips my way again. But I think if at face value right now, you're the winner in that deal.
Yeah, and I go into taking Jimmy G thinking like, all right, I've got 3 years before he even becomes a starter, and like 4 hours later he goes to the Niners, and I was floored. I couldn't believe it.
Well, yeah, and then down the stretch he's the GOAT. He's Jimmy Goat Garoppolo now. I mean, he's been unreal. Like, I know the fantasy stats haven't quite been there, but I mean, he's playing with, like, I mean, aside from the Bills, probably the worst skill group in the league. I mean, he's got Marquise Goodwin, for God's sake, who was cut by the Bills, it was his best receiver. So you got to think the Niners go into the offseason and add one, maybe even two blue chip wide receivers. I've heard rumors of Allen Robinson going there, maybe Sammy Watkins, even Jarvis Landry. Basically any free agent, has been linked over there. Which give that guy a number one target, and boy, we'll see what happens. I mean, the future looks bright there for sure.
Yeah, look what he did he was like the only quarterback to tear up that Jaguars defense. Was that when the Jaguars were still starting their main guys, or were they benching a bunch of guys that game?
No, that game was still meaningful for them. They hadn't wrapped up their the 4 seed or the 3 seed, I think, at that point. So yeah, that was still meaningful for them.
Yeah, Jimmy tore it up.
Yeah, it was really impressive. So, all right, so you make that trade, with Matt, and basically, let's call it a wash for now. I mean, maybe even a slight win for you, but nothing else really. I mean, I think he had a couple other small deals in season, but nothing really moves the needle. So, going into year 2 next year, what sort of first question, what are you looking for this offseason? What's kind of your game plan? You don't have to give us everything, obviously. You want to keep some things close to the vest. And then, piggybacking off of that, how would you kind of view your team overall going into year 2?
Yeah, so priorities for the offseason it's got to be wide receiver. Up and down my wide receiver ranks, you got J.J. Nelson, Rashard Matthews, and then a bunch of no-names. I mean, I don't even know who these guys are, and they're on my team. So that's definitely priority. If I can flip, C.J. Anderson, Lamar Miller, I picked up P. Ryan for like a second-round pick, so I'm hoping that he kind of pans out. So I can move a running back to strengthen my wide receiver core, and I'd like to get some more picks. I've got two first-rounders in 2019 that are going to be – they've got to be both top 5 picks next year. So I'm really looking forward to that unless somebody were to make me an offer, which I don't think I'm getting an offer for those until next year anyway. But and then going into next season, I probably had – other than Matt, I probably had one of the worst teams in the league, and I finished 5-8. Talk about grit. I pulled out 5 wins, and that's something I wanted to talk about with the rest of the team, the rest of the league. Like, unfortunately, my competitive streak, I can't just do what Matt did this year and start Jimmy Garoppolo while he's backing up Tom Brady. I can't do something like that. I'm trying to win every week, so that's what I'm going to do. And I ended up getting a 5-8 record. I can see myself with the same type of record next year. If not, maybe even a 500 record. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm not going to be selling out. I'm not going to be selling my players, something like that. So, and I'm actually in the right division to be doing that. The North Division, other than Burnt Orange Cows, it's kind of open to the rest of us. So I can pick up some W's there, and depending on the rest of my schedule, maybe I can pick up a couple more. So I don't have high hopes. I don't think I'm making the playoffs, but maybe I can disrupt the playoffs for a couple teams. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good segue to what we want to do next, which is kind of just get everybody's feel for the North Division. I do appreciate that sentiment, though, that you're trying. Listen, I mean, not everybody goes out there, cough, cough, Matt, and is trying to win every game. I mean, Matt did a hell of a job tanking. I mean, good on him. He got the number 1 pick. We'll see what he does with it. But, I appreciate the competitiveness. I mean, I know, I think most everybody approaches it the same way. I know I do. I want to win every single week, even if I'm out of it. I'm going to put my best lineup out there, and I know you're going to do the same. So, let's take a look at the North. I mean, obviously you've got the class of basically, a top 3 team in the league. The 2017 champion Burnt Orange Cows. I mean, I don't know where you guys see it, but I've got them at the top again pretty handily. I don't see any reason for them to see any sort of decline. Everybody's pretty much young. He's obviously got some injury risk with Gronk and Carlos Hyde, but other than that, I mean, it's just a very strong team top to bottom.
Yeah, and I agree. It's not like he's got the one superstar. He just has a lot of really good players. Well, actually, a superstar would probably be Aaron Rodgers. He's got Aaron Rodgers, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's got Jared Goff. Jared Goff. Could he trade him? Because he also has Sam Bradford. I mean, he's got some chips he can play with. I think Brandon Cooks is going to grow as a wide receiver on the Patriots offense. It's just consistent up and down his lineup. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I would say he might have a couple guys, if I'm going to play devil's advocate here, that might take a step back. I think you look at a guy like Carlos Hyde, you don't know if he comes back with the Niners. You don't know if he ends up in a place where he has that every down role that he's always had. And then Delaney Walker. I mean, a lot of talk about Jonnu Smith taking over the tight end duties in Tennessee. But like you said, he's got a little bit of depth. He's young. All signs point to repeating as division champ.
I mean, the one thing I could say that I could see, the one thing I could see that might not work in his favor is his team is just a whole lot of guys with high floors, and it played out to perfection this year. He just consistently hit 110 plus points, and it's rare for other people to do that in this league. So he could get unlucky some weeks if teams with higher ceiling players just hit their max, and maybe he gets a little bit unlucky in that sense. But it's hard to see him not really having that 100 to 110 point floor every single week. It's just like we said, it's just a strong team top to bottom. So next on the list here, we'll just go in descending order here, is second place this year was Overachievers. Kind of a mystery team, kind of here and there. Finished 6 and 7, 10th place. He's got some pieces, but I know Muzzy said he's looking to sell. So if he's looking to sell, this team could fall very, very quickly and very, very fast. You got some older guys, you like Matt Forte. I mean, it's a team kind of without an identity here. So we'll kind of see what happens. This is one of the most intriguing teams of the offseason to see what they do. Do they go full sell? Do they try and buy and restock, or what? That's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, this current lineup is it's not good. I'm putting that. I think this is a team that I can pass this next season. I mean, you're looking at, can Tevin Coleman finally make a leap for himself, or is he's going to continue to be the second back in Atlanta? I mean, and there's just really nobody else. There's a guy, I don't even know this guy's name, Taylor on Tennessee. Gosh, I don't even know who that is.
Yeah.
But you got. My team is horrible, but I look forward to being able to pass this team.
Yeah. I mean, I think for Muzzy, it's got to be, he's got to sell here. Demaryius Thomas, his window for being able to sell him is getting smaller and smaller by the minute here. And you look at, that's probably his biggest selling piece. I think, maybe you make an argument for Dak Prescott since he's got the two QBs, but, it's got to be sell mode here. But the thing is, Andy, you own his 2019 pick here, so
yeah, that's great.
He's not going to gain much here from the old not tanking method here.
Yeah. He does. If I remember correctly, he does have back-to-back first-round picks here in 2018. So maybe you can figure something out with those two picks as well.
Yeah, he's got 7 and 8, I believe.
Which, I mean, those picks will definitely bolster the lineup a little bit. Especially since this class looks pretty good, looks pretty deep. So those picks should be impact players. But yeah, I'm with you guys. I think I think it's got to be a sell. It really does. I mean, Muzzy made the playoffs the first 2 years. He did really well for himself, but this past year, the bottom sort of came out. I mean, all the depth and quality is at quarterback with Cousins and Prescott. And, Cousins was good this year. Dak really wasn't. So, yeah, I mean, I think you can make a move there. And you hope the picks pan out. But, yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think it's got to be a sell at this point. And, just another benefit for Andy there. So next we've got everybody's favorite league villain here. Now, Andy, I mean, you haven't had the full treatment from Fantasy Brat ABG, but needless to say, the first 2 years were they were pretty interesting with this guy. He's a character for sure. That being said, and this is gonna pain me here. This team looks really good going forward. I really like this team. He's got the young guys: Juju, Alvin Kamara, Evan Ingram, Cooper Kupp. He's still got T.Y. Hilton, Jordy Nelson, Mark Ingram. That's a very solid team.
Yeah, it kind of makes you wonder what happened to him this year. I mean, by far the best running. I don't know when he got Alvin Kamara, but did he have him all season?
Yeah, I traded him before the season started.
I mean, you've got Kamara and Ingram, and his final tally was 5 and 8. Like, how did that happen? There had been some owner glitches there, some bad plays, I guess, because you could easily have the top 2 running backs in the fantasy league this past year, and then you throw in a great tight end, Ingram, and Juju Smith-Schuster, the way that he ended the season. Obviously, T.Y. Hilton had an off year, and Jordy Nelson as well. But, yeah, this is a strong team going forward. I don't remember what his draft picks are for 2018, but it's looking pretty good. Maybe he can get himself a quarterback because Andy Dalton leading this team is not good. But yeah, he's got a young team, and it's looking bright.
Yeah, I think he's got a couple guys. I think Ingram comes back down to earth. I think Kamara's usage goes up. So I guess maybe it hurts him, maybe it benefits him. Time will tell here. But you got to think of T.Y. Hilton coming back to, his normal self. Jordy Nelson, with Rodgers being back full-time, is going to go back up. He looks great, in my opinion. Going to be a very, very tough out, I think, this year.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's an ascending team. I think the future looks bright there. All right, and then so last, we've got Andy here. I think we spent a lot of time on your team, so we'll kind of just make this. We'll kind of just go quick here. I think me and Matt will just give our quick thoughts of what we think you should do. I mean, you kind of gave us your game plan. I think first and foremost, I think you've got to just start mining some value here. Where it presents itself, whether that be Lamar Miller or C.J. Anderson. Maybe those guys sign a deal somewhere and you can flip them. I think it's going to be very important. How you utilize your draft picks. Can you move back and pick up extra picks? Can you move up at the right price? If not, you've got to basically have to hit on your 106. I mean, that's got to be an impact player for you. And then in the second round at 206, I think you've got to hit there, or parlay that into something else. But at this point, I think, just from an outsider's perspective, I think you need just assets with value, because, I mean, you have a handful, but certainly not enough. Like you mentioned, you've got a bunch of guys who like, Tavares King, Chad Williams, Brandon Coleman, those guys are, I mean, nobody wants those guys. Those guys are, you're hoping just, make a splash one day, but they don't have a whole lot of value. So, I think from my perspective, I think you've got to just try and hit anywhere you can and just pick up little bits of value. I don't think a big splash is going to help you, to be honest, because I think you're more than, one big splash away. So let's just try, I would say just try and do the best you can to get those incremental increases in player value.
Yeah, I think 2019 needs to be the target date for your, where you start to take off. I don't think this year is going to be too bright for you, but like Chris mentioned, you got Howard, Pirine, Garoppolo as pretty decent building blocks. And then like I've, talked about with many times, is your two biggest assets are those 2019 picks that are surely going to be top 5. I'll be absolutely shocked if they're not, and probably looking at 1.01 next year. So like you said, you're competitive, so you may not go that route, but I'd be selling anything and everything I can to get into next year's draft as much as possible, and look at that as your time to get your wheels off the ground.
I appreciate the pointers there, fellows, and I'll piggyback on the idea of selling. I know I've talked a lot about C.J. Anderson and Lamar Miller, but look at the way these guys ended their seasons. C.J. Anderson averaged well over 15 points his last 4 games, and that's a strong ending. And you look at that offense that's looking to pick up a quarterback, so you don't know how that's – actually, is he on a contract year? Was this his contract year, or is he – C.J. Anderson? I don't know if he's going to be on to Denver next year or not, but he's still under contract, but he can be cut relatively easily, and they can make some money. So we'll see what happens there. Yeah, so either way, he can go to another team, or I think if he stays on the Broncos and they find themselves like an Eli Manning, maybe that'll pull out some dividends for old CJ. And Lamar Miller, next year he's going to be getting Deshaun Watson back with a very good passing offense that can pay very good dividends for Lamar Miller. So do I want to sell him? Do I want to keep him? Either way, I think it's going to end up pretty well for me.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting offseason there for sure. And, it'll be an interesting offseason in the league here. I think a lot of teams have a lot of things that they need to be doing. We'll go through each division here as we go along this offseason. But, I think there's a lot of moves to be made, a lot of jockeying for position here. I think every division is legitimately up for grabs, even though, we talked about, Graham kind of pretty much being the class of this division. But I think every division this year is very much up for grabs. I don't see a dominant team, and that's good. That's good for the league. It's good for trading. I think it'll be a whole lot of fun. So, Andy, I appreciate you coming on with us. We had a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a good time. I think we went through. We had a lot of good discussion here. Thanks again.
I appreciate you guys. And if you ever need me back on, just contact my agent. I'll be happy to work with you guys again.
All right. Sounds good. See you later, guys.
Thanks, Andy.
See ya.
All right. That's all we got here for NSDFL Part 2, and signing off. Goodbye.